let's kind of go down the list of these 0-2 teams, and I want to take your temperature on the level of panic and see if we're in agreement here. I'm gonna start with the Chargers, and that's a team that when you and I talked before, might have been on the other show on BFA. You're like, hey, watch out for the Chargers this year, or else. And the or else has already happened. As a matter of fact, this was a crazy stat. Let me make sure I get this right. I took a picture of it to make sure I referenced it. The Chargers are the 33rd team in the Super Bowl era with 50 or more points and no turnovers through 2 games. They're the only one to start 0-2. If that ain't the most Chargers stat I've ever heard, I don't know what is. Brandon Staley, very affable, very amiable. Brandon Staley was very short with the media. Yeah. Not on Sunday, he wasn't. Don't tell him there's a hangover from the Jacksonville loss. It's like, are the Chargers coming apart? Is it already panic time? Or is there, I guess, a silver lining here or turn a frown upside down, given how close both these losses have been?
I will quote Keenan Allen, and I think this is pretty accurate. I think he said, obviously something is missing. And I think that is actually an accurate quote about this team. You've had, 4 straight losses now by less than 3 points, right? Where it's just like you can't break through, take hold, and win games that matter. And to me, as you said, seeing Staley's demeanor, where he's telling everyone, what doesn't matter? This doesn't matter. He's short. He's clearly annoyed. That's not his stock in trade, right? Like don't lose that cool. That is your trademark. That is what makes you who you are. And he feels like he's starting to lose it a little bit. And again, I will just say top to bottom. And I think we talked to this from on Brother from Another. I as talented as this team is, when you go top to bottom, how almost every area of the depth chart you see top end, either above average starters or stars. You can't start off 0-2 and in this fashion, where it feels like you just simply cannot get yourself over the hump here. And I hate to, start talking about, like, could this coach be fired or not? We're 2 games in.
We're 2 games in, but Charles, going into last year,
it feels familiar.
I had a Chargers executive last year in the beginning of the season say it's put up or shut up time. We know what happened in the playoffs against Jacksonville,
right.
And the Chargers feel like the NBA consolidated into one NFL team. As in, if there was a players team, it's the Chargers, because everybody been paid. So who's the fall guy? You know what I mean? There's only one fall guy in that building, right? Or 2, if you want to go even higher than Brandon Staley.
See, I don't. Again, it's not to protect any GM or anything. Even, front office executives. The talent is there. No one disagrees about that. Everyone, you talk to anyone around the NFL, they look at the Chargers, but what they will tell you is, okay, when I was on a camp tour this summer, and I'm going through these different teams, and I'm talking at one point to a general manager who's, we're talking about different teams, and we're talking about the Chargers. And the thing he said to me is, what's so concerning to me about that team when I look at it is that defensively, they just feel soft. They feel like they have a softness to them. And your head coach is a defensive specialist. Right. Yeah, that's his calling card. You can't have someone come in. He said it's always concerning when you have a head coach, a man who's meant to lead the entire franchise. He said, look, and look, he may not be leading the offensive, meeting. He may be delegating authorities, all these different things. He said, but when you have someone that's their calling card, if you don't see some signs of life in that unit or they're heading or trending in the right direction, it should be really concerning to you, regardless of the injuries, because there's a mentality that they bring. If your mentality offensively is to be aggressive, to be fast, to have good tempo, you can do that even with backups. Okay.
Yeah.
Defensively, if your mentality is just hit people in the mouth, don't let up, pressure, whether it's how you scheme things, you can still do that with backups. And he said specifically about the Chargers, he said they just defensively, they don't feel like they bring the kind of tenacity and fear to the table that realistically they should. And now here we are still talking about this. So,
well, no, and that's what I mean. Like, that's what I mean when I say it's a players' team. Like, the talent is there. They've all been paid. Like, the only reason it would go all the way up to Telesco would be if they just cleaned house. So the right coach wanted the job, and they said, I want my own personnel guy. But I'm with you. It just feels like 2 games in, Brandon Staley is on the same hot seat that he was in after last year's collapse against Jacksonville.
Oh, no question.
In the interest of time, in the interest of time, I want to go through some other 0-2 teams. 0-2 teams that had higher expectations. I'm not going to count the Cardinals. I'm not going to count the Texans. And just pick out the one you want to talk about. Again, just in the interest of time. Patriots 0-2, but for the first time since 0-1. But that feels like a different 0-2 because it's 2 really good teams, and they've been close. But it's still the Patriots, and still surprising nonetheless to a certain extent. Bengals started 0-2 last year. Burrow looked better in the second half. If you want to pick them, we can. Vikings have lost 6 fumbles in 2 games. Maybe they're regressing to the mean as far as luck. Justin Fields looks awful and sounds just as bad in his post-game press conference, depending on who you ask. And then there's the one that jumped out to me, the Broncos. And you got Sean Payton bringing up the wristband and, you know, getting the play in properly with Russell Wilson. And he was supposed to, and then they lose to the 2-0 Commanders. They collapsed against the Commanders. It was a big lead to the Commanders. So out of all those teams that are 0-2, and Pittsburgh, as of this recording, still hasn't played, they may be 0-2, depending on the outcome against Cleveland on Monday Night Football. Which 0-2 team should be the most panicked at this point?
I'm going to hit 3. I'll hit them all real fast. Cincinnati.
You got it.
I'm worried because you're in the AFC North. Burrow is not healthy. The calf clearly was re-injured in that game. He's limping badly. And you've already dropped 2 in the AFC North, which looks rough as hell this season. Okay. They're out of sorts. This does not feel like last year's 0-2 start. Okay. The Bears, it's caving in quickly. If there is a coach that I thought is on the hot seat next to Brandon Staley, it's probably Matt Eberflus, because it does not feel like what the Bears tried to do around Justin Fields has taken hold. Now, again, we're 2 games in, but it's extremely concerning that looks like regression versus taking a step forward. He looks like he is regressing right now. And the Broncos, to me, when I went through there, I can tell you this, everything with Russ and Sean Payton was about Sean imparting into Russ, tempo, know the offense inside and out, be prepared, be fast, be clean, let's move. Don't screw up. You know, you have to know this inside and out. Guys have to look at you knowing you know the offense inside and out. And it just, everything has to be precision and fast. Don't around. And right now, I think that's what Sean is frustrated about, going to the wristband, which when you go to the wristband, it's suggestive that you don't know the whole offense right now, or else you don't need a damn wristband. Okay?
Right.
So that's when,
remember Pete Carroll talked about him resisting that in Seattle. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah. No, that was it. I mean, like, you know, if you have to have the wristband to know the offense, fine. You just better be able to operate with it quickly. If you're not going to have the wristband, you better know everything you're doing, and everything's got to be fast. And it's just, it's concerning right now that when you watch the Broncos, you still feel like you're questioning, does Russ know how to win in this roster, in this situation, and with this coach? That has to turn around quickly, because it'll get a lot worse fast in Denver after last season.
And that's the opposite. And by the way, they were a Hail Mary miracle away from not even – well, it took a Hail Mary miracle to keep it interesting. And surprise, surprise, the Sean Payton team did not get a PI call. Started to bring up old stuff. But I was going to say, like, that's the opposite of the Chargers as far as, like, there's no – like, you can't go from Nathaniel Hackett to Sean Payton and it be the system's fault or the coach's fault. Like, Sean Payton was supposed to fix all the problems, but it put the blame squarely on Russell Wilson if things don't turn around for that Broncos offense. So, yeah, that's the one. Those are the 2 I would pick out as well. So the Bengals, you're right. That looks like a really tough division, and it's not quite the same as last year. You can't count on digging yourself out of that hole every single year. I still don't want to quite panic about them just because of the amount of talent and the quarterback, whereas Chicago and Denver, the quarterback questions have not been answered yet. Hey, thanks so much for kicking it with your main man, Michael Smith. Be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, but also subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Rate it, review it, tell your friends about it. Oh, and be sure to follow me on social media.